Hello and welcome to CATSweek. I'm Annalise Poorman. Monroe County Health Administrator Penny Caudill said the COVID-19 positivity rate was 3.5% during the September 25th COVID-19 press conference. She said the county health order would remain the same in light of the new state order.
So at that time, we again started looking at what the changes in his order, his executive order might be and how that might affect ours. Yesterday, on Thursday, we were able to actually review the back on track and look at the executive order. And after reviewing it, we did determine that at this time, we don't need to change our current regulations or health order. We will continue to monitor that and determine if we need to make changes. However, with that, I do want to make some clarifications because I know there will be questions about some of those things. As the mayor said, we still have locally lower limits on social gatherings. In the county, it's 50. In the city, it's 15. For commercial events or venues, it's 100 if it's indoors, it's 150 if it's outdoors.
Caudill said violations of the gathering size limits should be reported to the non-emergency Bloomington Police Department phone number. She said that dine-in bars and restaurants cannot have bar-top service and groups must remain 6 feet apart. Indiana University Assistant Vice President of Strategic Partnerships Kirk White mentioned IU campus flu vaccinations.
And speaking of that, our planning continues for the flu clinics that we will have on campus to vaccinate a large percentage of the campus. We're also encouraging people to use their private sector providers, but we'll have it available for everybody on campus who wants a flu shot. We'll have points of distribution set up probably starting in mid-October to get those out.
President of Indiana University Health South Central Region, Brian Shockney, said IU Health clinics are providing flu vaccinations. The Ellettsville Town Council discussed flood mitigation properties during their September 28th meeting. Town Manager Michael Farmer spoke of land purchases.
We're about to take possession of the property on Vine Street that will allow us to have two properties to start working on some flood mitigation in the Vine Street area. We've also talked to GL Chandler about incorporating his property, which is about the size of the Chad Stevens property in space, and so it gives us a lot of property to work with.
Farmer said an approximately $60,000 flood plan would be the next step. He mentioned stormwater revenue conflicts.
When you add all that up, it comes to the $177,000 that exceeds our annual revenue. So as you can see, just maintaining what we have now, there's not a lot of extra money to be had. We do project $142,000, actually about $143,000 in cash balance in unused funds from the past. And so that might be where we would pay for the plans to proceed with flood mitigation on Vine Street. And then I'm projecting about $10,000 for dumping and material fees to prep the site to start working on it. So that's just for preparation once we demolish the existing building and prep the site to start a project.
Farmer reported that stormwater needs exceeded the funds. Council members agreed to hold a work session to discuss the fund gap. During the September 28th Utilities Service Board meeting, Assistant Director of Environmental Programs James Hall proposed a language change to the Bloomington Municipal Code.
We're adding something called a hydromechanical grease interceptor. It uses diverters and different things in the flow, in the way that it separates oil. And a lot of these tanks are plastic, and so they're cheaper and smaller. We did a year-long study at the Domino's East location, and it turned out very favorable. And so we're revamping the language to include these type of separators in there. And we're also including a preferred pumper program permit. I think we call it a permit in there, so that we can get all the haulers that haul grease on the same page and make sure they're doing and providing the same type of service for the FSCs, so they know that the FSCs are getting what they need from the haulers.
Hall said the language would regulate hauler procedures when cleaning food service grease interceptors. City Attorney Chris Wheeler mentioned a mandatory grease hauler class.
It's going to be some sort of a mandatory operator training class that will help all of the folks that are seeking permits in order to continue to do this work to be trained in how to properly remove the waste from the receptacles, proper maintenance of those receptacles, proper hauling of those of the waste materials, and proper disposal. They're finding, they being CBU staff members are finding that there are lots of different methods being employed that aren't necessarily best methods and best practices.
Hall said training would be biennial for 30 to 60 minutes. Board member Julie Thomas asked who would receive training from each company. Pre-treatment coordinator Jason Wenning said all drivers will receive training.
So the plan right now is to have each hauler, each person actually running a truck will come in and be able to get this training. A lot of these are smaller haulers, so they only have maybe 3-4 employees who come in and sit down. And the big part is trying to catch these large national companies who come down from Indianapolis.
The Utilities Board unanimously approved the request. And we'll have more Cats Week after this message.
Do you know that thousands of children go without school supplies every day? Teachers Warehouse is a 100% volunteer-powered organization. We service the educational and creative needs of students in Monroe, Brown, Greene, Lawrence, and Owen counties by distributing school supplies free to the teachers. Teachers Warehouse is composed of 7 rooms filled with books, pencils, paper, and even tools to motivate students. If it's in a classroom, we'll supply it. To donate new or gently used school supplies or volunteer, give us a call at 812-929-7522 or email us at contact@teacherswarehouse.net.
Welcome back to Cats Week. The Bloomington Board of Public Works approved a right-of-way encroachment for the Banneker Center Black Lives Matter mural. Assistant Director for the Arts, Sean Starowitz, presented the request during their September 29th meeting.
This interdepartmental project is requesting the support of the Board of Public Works to permit the use of public right-of-way and join in this public display for our Black and Brown residents who have been fighting for justice and equality.
Starowitz said that the mural would be located on Elm Street between West 7th and West 8th Street. Board member Beth Hollingsworth asked Starowitz what procedures would be used if the mural became defaced.
If there is defacement, that's part of the process of this mural. Obviously, we would pay the artist to come back in and do maintenance. There was a similar incident that happened in Indy where it was defaced, and the artist actually wanted the defacement to stay because that showed that there's still work that needs to be done in the community of Indianapolis. So it's kind of, there isn't a camera necessarily on the Banneker Elm Street viewing point of view. So I think that would be part of the conversation between artists and the community itself about why this mural would have been defaced and those kinds of things. So it's really kind of up to the artist to kind of guide us on how we want to handle that.
Starowitz said maintenance funds are available if needed. The Monroe County Public Library Board of Trustees selected a design plan for a new library branch at the Bachelor Middle School site. Financial Officer Gary Letelier said the design, including a parking garage, would cost approximately $1 million more than the all-surface parking option.
Our original plan was a $5 million construction bond and a $2 million general obligation bond. So if we go with option 2, we can increase the general obligation bond from 2 to 3 million, and stay within that 10-cent tax rate guideline.
Letelier said the debt level fits within the library's revenue increase plan. Director Marilyn Wood clarified that a strategy is in place to cover the garage site plan option within the current tax rate. Architect Christina Matthews said the garage proved to best utilize the land gradient.
There is a drop from the west entry elevation to the east entry elevation of 15 feet in elevation. So we have to deal with that 15-foot grade change no matter what we do. And this is where the garage came in, because if we don't put the garage in, we're still going to have to backfill under the building 15 feet high at the east end, and then of course it would taper off as you moved west. But there was still a lot of effort, including retaining walls, all the things that go along with that grade change. So when we were looking at it, and we realized that the library would very much like to keep everything on one floor for lots of good reasons, operations-wise, security, all those things. We realized that if you entered from the top floor and kept everything on that floor, it made a perfectly wonderful opportunity to do what would be considered the most green thing you could do on site, which is to put the garage under the building.
Wood said that 44 covered parking spaces and additional surface lot spaces would be available. Matthews said that existing trees would provide a buffer between the middle school and the library. Wood said an elevator would provide access to the building's main floor from the garage.
And in fact, we considered whether or not we wanted to do that with an elevator because there's an additional maintenance and just upkeep on it, but overall felt like it offered a better opportunity and way to enter the building, as well as the amenity of having a covered area and a covered garage and the land use.
The board unanimously approved the library site plan with the parking garage. During the September 30th Monroe County Commissioners' meeting, County Attorney Jeff Cockerell presented a resolution for the expansion of the Monroe Fire Protection District to include unincorporated areas of Washington Township.
But this is just kind of a continuation of kind of what we've done with other townships when we look at expansion of the Fire Protection District. This outlines the rules, including notice and the remonstration provisions that we've carried throughout all the other additions.
The commissioners approved the resolution. And we'll have more Cats Week after this message.
I'm at risk of thinking there's just no point in trying. I'm at risk of looking in the mirror and hating what I see.
I'm at risk of regretting what I do, just to join the crowd.
I'm at risk of being told not to tell. And you would never know it by looking at me. But with Girls Inc. in my corner, there for me every day, believing in me,
showing me what's possible,
I can be strong enough to respect myself and my body, to say I can rather than I can't,
to say no with no apology,
to be a leader, to finish school,
to own my future,
to break the cycle.
Girls Inc. believes every girl can succeed. That's why the trained professionals of Girls Inc. are there for our girls every day, supporting, mentoring, and guiding them in a safe, girls-only environment. Building bonds that last for years and change that lasts a lifetime. Girls Inc. gives girls the tools they need to boldly face challenges, to resist peer pressure, to be the first in their families to go to college, to beat the odds. With Girls Inc. in her corner, every girl can be healthy, confident, and resilient. She'll do more than dream about her potential. She'll reach it.
With you in my corner. With you in my corner, I will not be another statistic. I will fight for myself.
For my future.
With you in my corner, I will win.
Fuel her fire and she will change the world. Girls Inc. Inspiring all girls to be strong, smart, and bold.
Welcome back to CATSweek. Bloomington City Council discussed the 2021 Civil City budget for $166 million during their September 30th meeting. City Controller Jeff Underwood said the formal budgeting process was state mandated.
The state requires the types of forms that you have seen. You only vote on an app org that is the different funds that we have presented budgets out of. The opportunity for you there is vote up or down. You can decrease as well any of those individual funds themselves. We're required to post 10 days in advance of the public hearing, which is tonight, on the Department of Government Finance advertisement that advertises both the fund balances and the levies that go with that. So unfortunately, as we get into this part of it, it's very mandated by the state. We can't alter from that process.
Underwood said that the council could vote for, against, or make cuts to the budget. He mentioned an increase in the general fund overall budget request.
In the general fund, the overall budget request is just over $48.5 million. This is an increase of about $1.8 million or 3.8%. When you factor in the $2 million for Recover Forward and a $194,000 decrease in property taxes, basically the general fund request this year was flat.
Underwood said the overall budget saw an approximately $4 million decrease, affected by a decrease in the Food and Beverage Fund. Underwood said overall changes from the August hearing were a $17,000 total budget decrease and a $136,000 general fund decrease. Councilmember Isabel Piedmont Smith expressed disappointment with the changes.
There are no changes that reflect concerns of council members. The only change is because of Duke Energy increasing rates and a few adjustments of payroll because of longevity. Turnover and stuff like that. There's no change that was requested by any colleagues, as far as I know. Certainly not those that were requested by me.
Piedmont Smith expressed frustration in administrative collaboration through the budget process. Councilmember Matt Flaherty said the budget worked around Mayor John Hamilton's priorities.
The budget, as presented today, is a representation solely of the mayor's vision and priorities. Zero changes were made between the budget hearings and now in response to council member concerns and requests. And nor do I, in addition to my colleagues, feel like our requests and our preferences and policy priorities as laid out in the budget advance meeting were taken seriously. I talked to most council members, and I don't believe there was any follow-up from that meeting. There was no discussion of what it would mean to implement some of the things we talked about, and I don't feel like this budget reflects those a lot of those priorities that were stated by council members. Mayor Hamilton has said that the city budget is the biggest and most important policy document the city has, and I agree. And a final yes or no vote is simply not an adequate level of input for the city's elected fiscal body.
Flaherty stated council members deserve meaningful collaboration. He expressed desire for built-in public engagement opportunities. Councilmember Stephen Volan expressed disappointment in policy initiatives from the administration.
And more importantly, I think the mayor should no longer assume that vague statements like, "we have worked with council," are sufficient. I've made my primary concern clear, but across the board, there are concerns by a majority of members on a variety of topics. That a majority has even thought about voting no on the budget should give him pause, but it does not seem to have. This year, it's been a sobering education for me to learn just how limiting state law makes council authority over the act of appropriating money.
Volin said the administration should rework its council partnership. Council members recommended do pass on the budget, with Steve Volin, Kate Rosenbarger, and Matt Flaherty voting no, while Sue Scambaluri and Isabel Piedmont Smith abstained. Final budget approval will be held on October 14th. And that is all for Cats Week. Thank you for joining us. For Cats and WFHB, I'm Annalise Poorman.